Brandon Grant. I'm the Marketing Director here at QuoteWerks. Today we're going to do a webinar on how to update your QuoteWerks layouts in basically an hour. We're going to take anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour today to update an existing QuoteWerks layout and just show you how you can make some aesthetic changes to the layouts to make them look a lot nicer and a lot more modern. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and go straight into it. For anyone that is curious, we are going to be recording this presentation, so if you just came in or you have to leave early or someone in your office wasn't able to make it, we'll be posting this on the website for later use, so if you want to view it at a later time, that'll be available for you. So let's go ahead and get into QuoteWerks. So let's go ahead and update it here. So the first thing we want to do when you start any kind of layout editing is go ahead and start with an existing quote. It doesn't need to be an actual quote or anything like that. It just needs to be what you want your quote to look like, the kind of information your layout is going to have in it, so that you know what the layout's going to look like as you're making changes and previewing it. So here you can see I've added 2 heading lines, and I have just a couple items, and I have some monthly recurring items on my document. That way it shows up as I go through to preview. So we're going to click on our Deliver icon here, and this is going to bring us to the QuoteWerks layout options. So as you can see, I have about 9 or 10 different layouts here, but the first one I want to show you is going to be the one we're going to make the changes today. So that's going to be the one that I've renamed to change, just so it's easy for me to identify it, and I'm going to go ahead and preview it. So when I preview it, this is what it would look like if I didn't make any changes to the document. So if I just sent it directly to the customer exactly like this, this is what it would look like. It doesn't look terrible, but it could use some tweaks, some changes to it. So that's what we're going to work on today, is kind of updating this layout. What we're going to cover is going to be or can be applied to any layouts that you're working on. So if you're going to go back and make changes to your own layouts, that's fine. You can use the same steps that we did today, but this is the one I'm going to focus on during this presentation. So the number one thing you always want to start off with when you are making changes to the layout is clone it. So if you'll see in the bottom left corner of your layout window, there's a clone button. So you want to highlight your layout and click clone. What this is going to do is it's going to make an exact copy of your layout. This is very important because if you are starting out with one of our default templates, or maybe you've already made the changes to your layout and you want to go and make some more changes, you'll have that original copy. So we always recommend anytime you're going to make layout changes, go ahead and start with a existing document or your existing layout and clone it, so that way if you mess something up or you remove something or you move things around, you can't remember what it looked like, you'll always have the existing one. So we're going to go ahead and call this one quote, and we'll just call it webinar for our webinar today. And then now you can see it shows up on our list of our layout types. So let's go ahead and preview it just to make sure that that's the right one. Okay, good. It looks exactly like the other one. So now we can go back and we can get to editing it. So to edit your layout, you're simply going to highlight the layout on your Deliver window and then click on your Edit icon here. And when you click on that, that's going to bring up the QuoteWerks Layout Designer. So this can be a little intimidating if you're not familiar with our layout designer, but it's actually very simple, and we're going to go over just kind of a brief overview, kind of what things are in the layout designer, or at least the major things that you'll need to focus on in order to make those adjustments. So the first thing we want to cover, kind of your buttons up at the top, your toolbar icons. You'll see we have Save. This is going to be Save and Preview, so it'll save any changes you've made and let you preview the document. Save and Close, which will save it and just close it and bring you back to the layout window, and then just close, and that'll let you close it out any changes. So if you remove something or added something, you just want to go back to the way it was, you can close, and it'll ask you if you want to save it first. Your next 2 icons are going to be very important. Your field and your label fields are going to be used quite a bit. Your field button is where you're going to pull fields from QuoteWerks. So when anyone ever calls in and asks, hey, how do I add the manufacturer part number to my layout, or how do I add the extended cost or the unit cost to my layouts, you do that by adding fields to your document in QuoteWerks. So when you click on the field icon, it'll actually pop up your Insert Data Field option, and then there's a table. Typically, your table is going to have 4 different options. It's going to have your document headers, document items, application, and contact manager. Your document headers is going to be your document-specific information. So this is going to be anything that's listed on the tabs in QuoteWerks. So if it's on the Sold To, Shipped To tab, the Sale Info tab, the Notes tab, the Custom tab, that's going to be a document header field. So for instance, if you were trying to pull in the document number for your quote, you're saying, I want all my quotes to print with the document number, that's going to be under your document headers field because it would be located on your Sale Info tab. So if I click on document headers, and we click on D in our keyboard here, it brings us down to the deposit amount, the first D available in document headers, and then you'll see there's actually a doc number field. So this particular quote already has it on the document, so I'm not going to add it, but this is how you can do that. So it's very easy to add fields to your document, and we'll actually go through adding the new field to this one, but I wanted to show you where that information is pulled from originally. Your document items table is going to be anything that's item related. So if you're looking to add the part number, the manufacturer vendor part number, the item's description, the unit price, anything of that nature, that's going to be under your document items field. So if it's item related, then you'll choose the document items table. And again, if you can see here, we have the manufacturer part number. So if we wanted to add the manufacturer part number to our layout, we'd be able to do that right here. The next one's going to be applications. This would be information that's stored in QuoteWerks itself in the program. So for instance, your sales rep information, your sales rep contact information would be under application, the company's address. You can see there's quite a few different fields to choose from, your location, your shipping information. All that is going to be located here. So far we've done the document headers, which is going to be your document-specific information, such as like the document date, the document number, terms, anything that's on those sold to, shipped to, sale info, notes, or custom tabs. Your document items table, which is going to be for anything item related, and then your application, which would be anything QuoteWerks related or that's in the QuoteWerks application, such as your contact information and things of that nature. The last one that you have, or you may not have if you're not integrating with the contact manager, would be additional contact fields. So if you have fields, if you're using one of the CRMs or PSAs that we support, or if you have QuoteWerks set as your CRM like I do, it'll actually have a different fields that you can pull into the layout. So if you wanted to add an additional field from your layout, you can go into the contact manager and see if it's supported here. The next step is going to be go ahead and making changes to the logo. So a lot of times, first thing that companies do is when they have QuoteWerks, they go ahead and they open up a layout and they say, well, obviously we need to add our own logo in here. So to add your logo, you can simply highlight ours just by clicking on it. So all the fields in here, you can move around just simply by clicking on it, and you'll see the little dialog box will appear around it, and then you can either move or delete it if you'd like. So if I hit delete on my keyboard, that'll actually remove it. This is the right logo, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this here, but if you wanted to remove yours or remove a QuoteWerks logo or a Aspire logo if it's on your layout, that's how you would do it. Simply highlight it, click delete on your keyboard, and it'll remove it from your layout. Now to add a new logo to the layout, it's going to be very simple. You're going to hit Insert and then scroll down to Picture. So again, we're just on our Insert table here, down to Picture, and then you can select the layout that you'd like to use. It's going to be defaulted by JPEGs or bitmap files. So if you have either one, it's going to let you pull it in. Now, a lot of times we have questions where users say, well, I tried to pull my logo out or logo in and the colors were inverted, or the logo crashed the layout, or something of that nature. What that usually means is that there's a lot of extra information in that particular logo. A lot of times the logos come from Photoshop or Illustrator or something of that nature. So what you can do is if you open your logo in Microsoft Paint and then simply resave it as a JPEG from Paint, Paint will strip out a lot of that information, and then you can usually add your logo to the layout no problem. So if you ever do have that problem, or if you're trying to add your logo and it's inverting the colors or something in the Layout Designer, typically just because there's some excess information behind the scenes in that logo, and you can have it stripped out automatically by Paint just by opening up the logo in Paint, click File, Save As, save it as a JPEG, and then you should be able to drop it in QuoteWerks no problem. Someone was asking if there's a plan to allow for higher quality graphics. We are looking at updating it. I'm not sure which version of QuoteWerks it's going to be and if that's going to be in the next release, but I know that is on development's roadmap to allow for higher quality pics and graphical information in there. So let's go ahead and move forward to updating this layout. So the first couple things we can do is we can simply update the colors. That's one of the easiest things you can do to your layouts. This yellow color is a little outdated. It's going to make the document look a little older, so you can get something a little brighter or just a little more modern looking. So to update a color on any of your fields, you simply click on the field. If you hold Control on your keyboard, you can actually select multiple fields at once. So even though they don't look selected, as long as you're holding Control on your keyboard, it will actually select each of these fields that I'm clicking on as I go through. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these fields here, and then I'm going to right-click after I let go of Control, and you're going to see there's an option for background color. So this is how you can quickly change the background color on all of your fields that are maybe a specific color you don't like or you just simply want to change. Click on them, hold down Control, and continue clicking on the fields, and then you'll be able to change them all at once. So let's click on background color. And then the first option is going to have you prompt you for is, do you want to use a background color? So if you already have a background color on there, it's going to already be checked, but you could uncheck it if you'd like. You can then choose a different shading type. Typically, it's going to be the solid brush. Solid brush means it's all filled in, but you can see there's different options here. So if you want to kind of play around with that and see if you can find like a cool design or something like that, you do have that option. So let's go ahead and click on color here. And then this is where we can select our color spectrum. So this is where you can actually choose your colors that you want to use for this document. Now you can see we have quite a few different colors, and then you can even customize your colors. So if you know your company's branded colors, this is a great place where you can put that information in. If you've used Photoshop or Illustrator, they actually have the hue information in there. So you can actually go through and just populate that, and it'll have the picture, or it'll have the color come up. And then you can click Add to Custom Colors, and it'll save it here for you so that you can use it later, so you don't have to customize it each time you want to in the document. I see a lot of questions coming in, so I'll circle back to your questions. I want to go ahead and get through this, and then we'll make sure to answer all your questions at the end. Like I said, we're going to try to wrap this up in like 45 minutes, so we can spend the last 15 or 20 minutes or so answering questions. So if I don't answer your question immediately, it's something that I have to just switch to here at the end. So let's go ahead and select a different color. So we're going to go ahead and select, let's do this, let's go ahead and do more of a navy color. So we'll go ahead and select this navy color and then hit OK. And then simply hit OK again. And it's going to change all our colors to this kind of like a navy blue color here. Now, as you can see, because we have black font on this navy blue, it's very hard to read, completely almost illegible. So let's go ahead and update that as well. So we're going to do a very similar thing that we just did, is we're going to highlight our fields where we have those fonts. But this time, as I'm holding Control and selecting these, we're going to right-click and select font this time. So instead of choosing background color, we're going to choose font because we want to change the font of it. So let me go ahead and click font. And then you can see here that it defaults the color to black. So let's go ahead and change it to white. That'll show up a lot easier, and it'll be a lot easier for us to read. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And then you can see here it's going to change it all. Now, if I had not hit Control while I was selecting them, you can see only a couple of them took. So very easy change. We just go through and reselect the ones that I missed. And we'll go to font. And we'll change it to white. There we go. So much easier to read, and that's going to stand out a lot more. And it's going to be a little bit more bold of a color when we deliver this to the customer, that if you have these kind of bolder colors, they'll actually be able to stand out. And it looks nice when it's printed out on the PDF as well. So let's go ahead and continue making changes. So you'll see QuoteWerks is divided, the QuoteWerks document's divided into different sections. So we've already made some really quick changes just by adding these colors and kind of changing it and updating the color. So it's already going to look better than it did before. We can continue making changes with any of the other fields. You'll see up at the top, this one says quote. If you double click in this field, you can actually see that you can change it. So this is a label field. Anytime you need to, what we call hard code information on a quote, you can use a label field. Hard coding the information means it's static text. It's something that you don't want to change. You want it on every document. So you can use a label field for any type of this information. So that's going to be our other data field option up at the top. So if we clicked on label, this would let us create a new label field. So you can see when I hit label, it actually populated a label around my cursor. And then I can resize it. And if I double click on it, I can change the text. So again, that's going to be a label field. So anytime you have something that you need to have on every document, you don't want it to change, it's not going to change, you can use the label field for that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this because we don't actually need that. But I just wanted to show you that very simple to make those changes, add that kind of information to your documents. So let's go ahead and move to adding a new section. So for our document, we have just this one detail section. You can see this other one, but this one's really for spacing. in the document. So this detail section 1 has our line, basically our line count, our quantity, our description of our product, our unit price, and our extended price. So everything looks good except that we don't really need to count the line items on our documents for our customers. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. So it's going to be very simple. We're going to highlight this field and then just hit delete on your keyboard, and that'll remove it. So if you ever want to remove a field, it's very simple to do so. So the same thing, we're going to do it with the description field, or the line field here. This will let us remove it as well. What this is here, these are just label fields. These are going to be kind of like the headings for your document. So now we can kind of move things around. So let's go ahead and move our quantity to the end of the document, and we'll give our description a little bit more room since we typically have longer descriptions for our items. This is important when you're moving fields around, that if you do have these heading lines, remember to move the actual field. So your page header is going to print on the top of every page in QuoteWerks. So this is going to have your heading information here. Your detail section is going to be the line item information. So you always want to make sure this lines up. So we do want to move our quantity to the left here, and I'm just going to do that by dragging it with my mouse. And then same thing with my description field. Let's go ahead and move this to the left over here and get it a little more in line. So that's going to look a lot better. That'll remove that kind of extra field that we had on our layout, so it kind of cleans it up. I would recommend, as you're working on your layouts and you've made a change to something, you like the way that looks at this point, go ahead and save it. Just save your work so you don't lose anything at this point. Or again, if you forgot, if you changed something or removed something you didn't want to, you can close out and go back with it. So I would save a lot kind of as you go through and you're happy with the changes that you're making. So the next thing that we can do is we can add a new detail section field. So in my quote, if you remember, I had the heading line. So let's go ahead and save and preview this. So I have my heading lines here. I have my phase 1 and my phase 2. And this is going to be something that I want to kind of accentuate a little bit more so the customer can actually see, hey, this is a different section in the document. It's bolded right now, which looks okay, but I want to accentuate it a little more. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment next. So the first thing we're going to do is go back to our layout designer. And you'll see we have our detailed section fields. So your detailed sections are where your line items print on the document. You can create essentially as many detail sections as you want, and you can even add filters to them to filter for a specific line type in QuoteWerks. So going back just a little bit, if you go into the QuoteWerks help file and you click on the appendix, there's going to be an option called Developer Integration Notes, and it actually tells you that there's, if you scroll about 3/4 of the way down, there's line types, and then there's values for these line types. So every line type in QuoteWerks has a number value. So it can be 1 for product service, comments are 2, subtotals are 4. And what this allows us to do is in this layout designer, we can create filters, some basic filters, so you can actually filter based on that line type. So for instance, I want my heading lines to show up in a separate and print differently than just my regular line items in the document. So there's an easy way to do that, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So the first thing we're going to do is right-click on our layout designer and select Insert, and we want to do Section because we want to put a new section in there. And then it'll give you the option, is it a report header? Well, it's not a report header because it's not at the top of the document. It's a detail section because it's line item related. So we want to go ahead and add a new detail section here. And let's go ahead and hit OK. I see a couple people said they just logged in and they're trying to get caught up. To get to the layout designer, click on the Deliver button in QuoteWerks. Highlight your layout that you want to make changes to. Clone it first so that you have a copy of it, and then you can edit that that layout. So again, just click on Deliver, clone your layout, and then you can click on the new copy and hit Edit, and that'll bring you to the layout designer. If you did come in late, we will be recording this and posting on the website for you to view also. So now that we have our new detail section, we can resize it because it doesn't need to be this large. So we're going to go ahead and make it a little smaller. And then one of the nice things that you can do in QuoteWerks is you can copy fields from section to section. So I know I need this description field because this is what my line items look like. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. So I'm just going to right-click on it and choose Copy. And then I'm going to go to Detail Section 3 and hit Paste. And then you can see it's going to outline on my document, or around my mouse rather, and then I can paste it in here. Now for this one, I'm going to give us just a little bit more room because I'm going to make this one a little larger. So I'm going to go ahead and even move it down just a little bit here. And then I can start making changes to this. So I can right-click and choose Font. And let's go ahead and we're going to bold it. So let's choose Bold, and we'll make it a size 12 font instead of 10. So I'll make it stand out a little more on our document for our customer so they can actually see that. The next thing I want to do is I want to add kind of like a heading underline so that it kind of breaks up the sections for my customer so it's easy for the customer to read. So I can do this with a line in QuoteWerks. And the way to do that, if you look up at the top, is actually a line option. So I'm going to go ahead and click line. And you'll see I have an outline around my cursor now. And if I put it there, you'll see it's just a straight black line that we have. And I can extend this line as far as I need it to. And then it's resizable, so I can actually shrink it so it shows up below my description field. So you can see I now have this description heading and my line right below it. And again, so you just click on the line, that'll bring up the line option here, and then it's resizable. The line, you can also change the colors of. So maybe I don't want to do a black line. Maybe we want to do like a gray line. Maybe your company colors are blue and gray. So now we can say, okay, well, let's do gray. It's a little lighter than the black on the document. So we're going to click on Format. And this is also where you can change the line properties. So if you are looking at a field and you want to change something about it, you can always look in Format. For this one, you can actually change if it's a vertical, if it's diagonal, and then we can actually change the color. So we're going to choose a solid line. You could do a dash line if you'd like. You can do dots. You can do dash and dots. So you have some options here. You can also change the width of the line. So if you want it to be a little fatter of a line, stand out a little more, you can change that as well. We're going to go ahead and just use the option that we have here. So let's hit Color. And let's go ahead and use a lighter gray. So let's go ahead and select this color here and hit OK. And then I can hit OK. And then you can see that it's now a lighter gray color. So that'll help it stand out a little more in the document and kind of everything will look a little nicer. So now I'm looking over my document, and I need to make sure that only my heading lines print like this. I don't want my line items to print like this. So the way we do that in QuoteWerks is with a filter. So we're going to do a very simple filter in QuoteWerks that you can use to make this change. So in your detail section, you're going to right-click, and you'll see there's an option for filter. So we'll select that. And then the selection criteria is basically, what is the filter? Put the filter information in here. So what we need to tell it is to do a very basic thing is telling it if it is a specific line type, in this case heading, then we want it to print like this. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to choose operator. And we're going to select if, because that's how we want to start it. So if, and then we're going to click on data field, because we're going to say, we're going to do it by line type. So if you remember, I showed you the line types in the help file. This is where those are useful because you're probably not going to remember them off the top of your head. So we can click on data field. And then we know this is a item information. So again, if we go back to our tables, you see, is it a document header information? No, it's going to be item information because we're basing it on the line type, so what type of line item it is in the document. So we're going to choose line type, and it's the last one I had already selected, so it already remembered my heading. But if I didn't remember it, if it brings you to this one, just click on L on your keyboard, and that'll bring you down to the L's, and you can select line type. And then we're just going to type in equals on your keyboard, and then 256. So I'm just going to put in that this is basically saying this filter is going to print like this if the document item line type is equal to 256. So basically it just says, if you have a heading line, print like this. That's all this filter is saying. Now we need to make one more adjustment before we're ready to preview this just to make sure everything worked correctly. The next thing we need to do is go to our detail section 1 and go to our filters. So right-click again and choose filter. We need to filter out heading lines because this is going to print everything. So we would actually have duplicates. So if you've ever worked with filters in the past and you said, oh, I tried to add a heading line, but I had a duplicate. It was printing twice. You have to filter that out. So that's why we're going to do it this way. So we're going to actually use the exact same filter that we used before with a minor modification. So again, we'll choose operator. And we'll select if. And yes, I see someone's asking where the line types can be found again. Yes, those are in the developer appendix in the help file. So if you go open up the help file, go all the way to the bottom on the table of contents, you'll see there's a developer appendix, and then you'll see there's a section in there for line types, and you'll see the different line type numbers there. If you're going to be doing a lot of filters in QuoteWorks, or even just making changes to your layouts, it's a good page I would bookmark. That way you don't have to go find it each time. So again, we'll put in the operator for if. Data field is going to be line type again. And then this time we're just going to do less than or greater than. So your less than or greater than symbols, and then 256. So we're basically filtering out the 256. So it's going to say any line type less than 256 or greater than 256, print like this, which is what we want. We just don't want the heading lines to print like that. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And now let's go ahead and preview this document. So let's see what it's going to look like before we do anything else. So let's go ahead and hit Save and Preview. And now you can see it already looks a lot nicer. It's a lot easier for the customer to see. You have your phase 1 with your different descriptions, and then you have your little break in your line, and you have your description information, your unit price, and your extended price. I think the change in the colors as well has already made this document look a lot better, and we've only made some minor adjustments. So it's some really easy changes that we can do. Now, there's a couple other things I wanted to adjust. So I can see here this recurring amounts. We only ever sell something in monthly amounts. So maybe I want to change this to just say your monthly total or something like that. And I don't like the font. I don't like it italicized, so I can make those changes too. So let's go back to our layout. And we're going to make a few other adjustments here. So one of the things I wanted to change is going to be the all of our outlines here, all of our borders. So we have black borders. I want to go ahead and change to the gray. I decided that I really like this gray, so let's go ahead and make those changes. So again, all you're going to do is start selecting your fields. So we're going to hold Control and select our fields here. Let me make sure I get the right one. There we go. Got that one. Have that one. And let's get this one, all these. And this is something that can take you a little bit of time to make sure that you got all of them right. But again, we're just holding Control to make these changes. Then we're going to right-click and select Borders. So you'll see there's an option for borders. So every field in QuoteWorks has a border. So if you want to have a specific color for all of your borders, you can do that. So let's go ahead and change our color here. And let's use that same gray color that we use for our line items. So we have that same gray color. Let's go ahead and select that. And hit OK. And hit OK. And then that should change most of them. So we might need to go through. I can already see I need to update this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I missed this box here. So let's go ahead and update those. Borders, color, make the change, hit OK. And let's go ahead and save and preview that. So you can see now I have the gray boxes. So I think that looks a little nicer. Still have those bold colors, but it softens it a little bit with that gray. So it's a really nice looking layout, and this is something that I would be confident in being able to send out. So let's take a momentary break here just to kind of recap what we've done so far. So the first thing we did was make changes to the background colors. So anytime you highlight a field, if you right-click, you're going to have these different options. One of the easiest ones to change is going to be background color. I mentioned that if you hold Control while you select your different fields here, you can actually do more than one at a time. So that'll save you a lot of time when you're trying to update your layouts and make changes. You can easily do that. The other thing we discussed was we're doing some basic filters. You can do some really complex filters in QuoteWorks, but most people don't need those. You're just going to really need the basic ones. A lot of our layouts already have some of these filters. So if you like the way a layout looks and maybe you just want to change some of the colors and things like that, now you're going to be able to do that. So the next thing we want to do is adjust this formula here at the bottom in our report footer. So this recurring text is, as you can see at the bottom, it says calculation. That means it's a formula. So it's actually, if I double-click on this or right-click and choose Edit Formula, this is going to do basically do some calculations for you, and it's going to print in a specific way. Now, I wouldn't recommend making any changes here, just because if you want this to continue to print and you start making adjustments to this, you do need to know what you're doing. But what we can do is you can see that in parentheses, or in quotation marks rather, it actually has recurring amounts. And if you remembered on our document, that's what it said. So this is actually what prints out. I want to change that. I want to call it something different. So instead of it calling recurring amounts, I just want to call it monthly total. So I'm just going to type in here monthly total. And that's all I'm going to change for this specific formula. And I can hit OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and just resize this a little bit so we can have it a little more in line, since I like everything to be in line. Maybe we'll even move it over here to the left and line it up with everything else. And a lot of this, as you can see, is just simply moving things around where you want them to show up on the document. So if you do have fields that you don't see on the document or you want them to show up on the document, you can do that. You would even have the option if you wanted to, maybe you want to add a bottom border to this. We can do that. And then for our formula here, let's say, you know, we'll leave it as is. It looks okay that way. So if we hit Save and Preview now, you can see it's going to add that line item. So maybe we need to move it down a little bit, or maybe you want to remove the border. So that's one of the nice things with the layouts that you can do, is that's why you want to have a quote open or something already included on your document. That way, as you are making these changes, you can say, you know what, I don't like this border. Let's go ahead and remove that. It looks better without it. Hit OK, Save and Preview, and then you can see, okay, you know, that looks okay. Maybe you want to bold it. You have that option. You can change that if you'd like, but it's very easy to make those kind of simple adjustments. So the last thing we want to do is maybe we need to add another field. So in our layout here, we have very simple fields. We have our quantity, description, unit price, and extended price. Maybe we also need to include the manufacturer part number for our customer, or maybe we have an internal part number that we reference that we give the customer. There's just something else that we want to add on this field. So how we can do that is going to be very simple. The first thing we want to do is we need to make room for it. So we don't have any room right now to print any kind of part number. So let's go ahead and shorten our description. And we'll shorten our description label up at the top as well. And now we're going to have the room to create that manufacturer part number field. So the first thing I would recommend doing is go ahead and copying the description field or one of your header fields so that it has the right color, it has the right font set, it has everything. So we're going to hit Control-C on our keyboard, or right-click and copy, and then right-click and paste, or hit Control-V, and then you'll have your label field here. So our label field obviously says description, but I want to call it something else. So let's go ahead and say, double-click here, and go into the description field, and let's call this our manufacturer part number. And that's going to be a much smaller field, so we can resize it. And then we can choose where it's going to show up on our document. There. So it's right there on our document. So we have our header, and now we just need to add the actual field. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check with the font on this because I want it to print the same way. So it's using Arial Regular 9. So that's what I want to change mine to because I think it defaults to something else. So we're going to click on Field. And then we would change our drop-down to Document Items because we want to add an item field. So in this case, it's going to be your manufacturer part number. And we can hit OK. And then we can choose where we want it to show up. So we want it to show up here, but we're going to have to make a couple changes. Let's resize it. And there, it'll show up now. And then if we right-click and choose Font, we have the option for Arial Regular 9. Looks good. That's exactly what we want. So we've added that field. So it's that easy to add new fields to your document. You just really have to know where to look. Making these changes is something that, as you get more familiar with, it's going to become easier and easier. So let's go ahead and save and preview this one. And then now we can see what our document would look like. So it has our part number fields on there. And you can see it's going to start to cut off because this has a really lengthy part number. So maybe that means that we need to have a longer part number field. So we can go through, and again, this is why you want to have that quote open, at least like a demo quote if you have it, just so you can see exactly what it's going to print like as you're moving forward. So let's go ahead and shorten our description field a little more. And we can even shorten this a little more and extend our manufacturer part number so that it has enough room. And preview it again. And there we go. That looks a lot better. So that has plenty of room now for our part numbers and still lines it up the way we want it to, so it looks good. So the last thing that you can do that we're going to cover before we open it up to questions, because I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions, is being able to add your label fields basically anywhere on the document and being able to use them for your headings. So you see here we have our quantity description, manufacturer, part number, unit price, and extended price. So if you wanted to add a new field, maybe in a different part of the document, maybe it doesn't exist yet, you can add using those label fields. So we're going to go ahead and create a new label field, and let's go ahead and delete this one here. Yeah, we'll delete that one. And so we have our new label field, and we want to call this our quote number rather than just number. So we're going to double click in there, and it's going to let us rename. It's going to let us rename any of these field items. So we'll put in quote number, and then we can simply move it to where we'd like it to show up. And we can even resize it so it matches up. And then if we want to, we can see the font on this one. This one's Arial, bold, and 10. We can choose Arial, bold, and 10. And that'll match up. And then you can see it's cut off, so we need to go ahead and extend it a little farther so that it's not cut off anymore. So now it'll say quote number instead of just number on the document, so it's a little more clear for the customer. Now, a lot of users always ask alignment questions. How do I justify it to the left? How do I justify it to the right? If you right-click on a field, you'll see there's an option for alignment. So when you get to alignment, this is going to choose the text alignment. So this is going to be how is the text in this field aligned? So you're horizontally, so you're talking about going from left to right. Is it justified right? Is it justified left, center? How is that? And then the vertical in the actual space itself. Typically, you'll want to center it, but you don't have to. You can obviously make those changes. And when you hit OK, it'll move the text in the actual field space for you. And that's true for any of the other fields. So if you have any fields in here that you want centered or justified in a specific direction, highlight it or click on it and right-click and select alignment, and that'll let you make those additional changes. The other right-clicking option is going to be formatting. So this will give you a few things. If you need to wrap the text, it'll let you do that. We typically recommend the word wrap text, which a lot of it should already do, where it'll keep words together instead of just single letters. And then also variable number of lines, which means it could be a 3 or 4 line part number or description. Very useful for description, so you can always check that information out. I see a lot of questions. Like I said, I'm going to come back to your questions. So if I skipped over your questions so far, don't worry. I will circle back for you. So let me just make sure that we covered most of the things we wanted to today. So the last thing that we can talk about are going to be making any kind of additional changes moving forward. You'll look at the bottom, and there's going to be a couple different options here. So we have our page footer, which actually includes some like terms and conditions. So this is a label field, and you can see as you select items, they're going to show up on the bottom left-hand corner and tell you what it is. So you can see here this one actually says label. If I selected this one, it would tell you it's a data field, it's the document items. If I selected this one, it would tell you it's a calculation, it's a formula field. So if you're ever confused or not sure what a particular field is, you can highlight that field, and at the bottom, QuoteWerks will actually tell you what kind of field that is. So you don't have to worry about looking for it, or you can see where it is. So for instance, this one here is a data field. It's document headers. It's a subtotal. So you can actually find that information. This one here is the shipping amount, and the grand total is in document headers. So all that information is available. I've gotten a lot of questions about the phase 1 and the phase 2 in the quote, about how that got there. So that's actually just, that has nothing to do with the layout designer. That's actually just in QuoteWerks itself. So if you're in QuoteWerks on the Document Items tab, right-click, and there's an option for Insert Heading, and that's how you can put that information in there. And that's what those filters are designed to do, is that take this and turn it into more of this layout. So we go to the first one that we used. This is what it originally looked like before we started. And you can see just by making a few aesthetic and small changes, we're able to make those adjustments and just make it look a little nicer, make it a little more presentable and easier to read for the customer, so you can include that information. All right, so let's go back into our layout designer. So if you're making any changes to the page footer, this information shows up on the bottom of the document. Again, your label field information is things that are going to be static, anything that you want to change. If you're using one of the fields from the document itself, that'll be dynamic. So if you have something on the document that maybe changes from quote to quote, use a macro field instead. Use a QuoteWerks label or a QuoteWerks field rather than a label field. That's important to note because a lot of users have information, maybe introduction notes or closing notes information that they want to include on their document. Make sure you're using those fields on the document. The last thing I wanted to mention are product pictures. A lot of items have pictures, or you use pictures to sell your items. This is something that can easily be added to any layout. When you're in your detail section field, you will have to make some room for it, but you can actually expand the width of the field, and then you can click on the field icon here, and then you're going to look for the ampersand picture field. So it's actually going to be in your ampersands up here, and then it's just going to be in alphabetical order, and you'll see there's an ampersand picture field, so we can include that on our document. Now you can see here it's going to be very large by default until we move it into a section, and then it'll resize to fit. You can choose the size of this picture field. Now, just doing this is going to automatically print any pictures associated with this line item, with these line items on the document. However, this is not going to automatically make the picture this size. If you have pictures that are all different sizes, they're going to print all different sizes, but you can format it so they all print the one size. The way to do that is to double-click in here and check the box for resize to bounders. So you can either right-click and choose format, or just double-click on it and it'll bring you to format. Resize to bounders will automatically take the picture, no matter what size it is, and fit it into this space. You'll also want to check the one right below it, maintain aspect ratio so that it doesn't, it's not distorted, so it just stays the same size. And this will make all your pictures the exact same size on the document. Some users like that, some users don't. It's up to you how you want to do that, but that's how you make that change. I think it looks nicer when all your pictures are uniform size, but it's an easy thing to add to any layout. So if you're already using QuoteWerks and you're saying, you know, all I want to do is add pictures because we have pictures for all our items or some of our items, all you have to do is add this field to your layout. So we're going to go over it one more time. I'm going to go and delete it here. We're going to click on Field. You're going to select Document Items from your table because remember, it's line item related. So if it was in one of the tabs on the Sold to, Shipped to tab, so if it was customer contact information, it's on the Sale Info tab. So if it was document date or document number, if it was closing notes, so that on the Notes tab, or if it's something on the Custom tab, then it would be document headers. Since it's line item related, because it's a picture associated with this line item, you want to select Document Items, and then you scroll up to the top, and then you'll look for the ampersand and then the picture field. So there it is, and you can hit OK. And then don't worry about the size of it because, like I said, it's resizable, so we can put it where we want it to show up. And then you can resize it to whatever size you want. So do you have more lengthwise pictures? Are they more square? Are they more kind of like thumbnails? However you want it to print, you're going to have that option. Maybe you want to move it over here, so you just need to start moving fields and kind of shrinking sizes to get things to show up where you want them to. And then again, to make that picture show up on the document in a uniform space or in this size, you're going to right-click, choose Format, Resize to Bounders, and maintain aspect ratio. So for our layout, I don't have any items with pictures associated with them, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove it, and we'll go back to our line items. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention, if you're looking at your document and you're worried about spacing between your line items or spacing between your headings, that's something you'll just kind of have to play with to get a feel for it. But again, that's why you have that quote on your document, so you can go through and you can change these detail section spacing. So if I wanted more space between my line items, I can make it larger, and you can see it'll space it out. If I wanted less space, I can go back to our detail section and shrink the space again, and that'll make it a little tighter together. So you can kind of manipulate how you want it to show up on the document, how you want it to print by making some of those changes. If you're looking at the bottom saying, oh, you know, this is too close, then you can extend the spacing of that as well. So you can say, oh, my report footer, make it a little larger, or maybe you want to add a new detail section to give it some more spacing. It's going to be up to you. You're going to have full control over that. You can customize it. It's one of those things you're just going to have to see. But like I said, it's always good when you're starting any kind of layout design, go ahead and put some items in the document. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a quote, but it can be a quote. That's probably the best thing to use, is start with an already existing quote. Make sure you have your contact information in there. That way, as you're making these changes to your layouts, you can quickly see this is what it's going to look like as the final product, so that I can say, okay, I can preview it as I'm working and saying, okay, I need to make this change, or, oh, I forgot to change this, or I didn't put in my contact information there, so let me go fill that out. Let me make sure this is exactly the way I want it to print on the document. All right, so I think that's a good place to stop for the moment. So we'll go ahead and start answering some of your questions. So if you want to see something, I'll try to do it. A lot of layout design is time-consuming work. So if you're talking about, filtering out different things and wanting to see that, we're probably not going to be able to do that here. We do offer professional services. So if you are looking for some layout design help and you're saying, this is over my head, I just can't figure it out, can you just design it for me? We do offer professional services where we will actually design the layout for you. Basically give us a mock-up of what you want it to look like, and we'll create it for you. If that's something you're interested in, just send an email over to support and then get you started with that process of getting signed up and kind of what the scope of work is going to be. So again, go ahead and you can start popping in your questions if you'd like. If you just have QuoteWerks related questions, I'll try to answer those too. Like I said, I'll try to answer as many layout design questions as long as they're somewhat simple and something I can show. If it's something complex, we'll just have to take that conversation offline. So let me see. Okay. So there's a question about someone wanting to be able to put some type of salutation. The easiest way to do that was probably use a label field. If it's something that's going to be on all of your documents, put a label field for dear or hello or whatever you want it to be. There's not a way to do the prefix of like Mr. or Mrs. That is something that you could put in the customer's contact name, however. So all this information is pulling from QuoteWerks. So if you wanted it to say, Mr., in this case, John Liu, on your document, on your sold to ship to tab, I could just put in Mr. here, and then that would print out on the document like that. So if that's something that you wanted to add, that's an easy way to do that. So I'll go through and answer these questions, so if there's a pause, that's why. Gene, you can actually set it up. Well, you can use the heading lines, Gene, to put your optional items in one section. That's what I would recommend doing. Gene's asking if there's a way to basically filter out your optional items. I would recommend just doing a heading line, call it optional items, and then you can just simply move all your optional items into this section. And we do support drag and drops. If you wanted to drag them down there, you can. That way, when you print it out for the customer, it's going to look like that, and it's very clear to the customer which items are optional. If you're using Quote Valet, there'll actually be checkboxes next to your optional items, so that's something else you can look at doing. If you're interested in using Quote Valet, you can actually have the customer then select or deselect items. All right, let me see. Scott's asking, right now they have a comment line. When they add a comment line to the document, it's automatically in bold text. I'll show you how to change that. I would recommend probably working with support to do this. But we have what's called conditional fonts in QuoteWerks, where you can basically say, hey, if it's this, print like this. That under, that's going to be under Format, and then Conditional Font. So if you highlight your section, and then click on Format, and then Conditional Font, it'll open and it'll show you which ones you have available. I don't have any conditional fonts set in this, but that's what's going on there, so you can change that if you'd like. Thomas, that 256 line for the descriptions in my detail sections, those are available in the user's manual. So if we go back to our user's manual here, the help file, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, so all this is the table of contents. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's an option for Appendix Developer Integration Notes, and this has the line type numbers there for you. So they're just number representations of what they are, just essentially programmatically you can actually see that information. It's like product services equal to 1. So if you wanted to filter for a product or service, it would be 1. If you wanted to filter for comment, it's 2, and so on. Geneva, I saw that you had asked the same question that a couple others had asked about where you got the phase 1 and phase 2. So if you guys aren't familiar with the different line types in QuoteWerks, on your document items screen, if you right-click, you'll see there's options for insert in blank line, comment line, and heading line, and then you can also do subtotals and like percent discount and percent charges. So that's where I put that phase 1 is use the heading line, and that's what we specifically designed our document to do, our layout, is it was to print those specific line items. Brian, I see you have a lot of questions, and yours are definitely going to be a little higher on the tech level side. There are ways to do things to like snap things into alignment, but I would say we can take that conversation offline because it's a little more complicated to do that, but that is possible. Mike asked if there's a way to justify your fields. So if we look at our document here and we say, okay, our manufacturer part numbers are right justified, and we wanted to center them instead, you can do that very simply by clicking on your field, right-clicking, selecting alignment, and then we can choose to center it. And then that'll center it for us. Al, you can force a page break in the QuoteWerks Layout Designer. It's actually a filter that you create. Send that email over to support@quoteworks.com, and they can actually give you the instructions on how you'll do that. It's pretty simple. What you'll end up doing is actually putting a new line item in your QuoteWerks document on the Document Items tab that starts with like PG or something like that, and that will actually force a page break for your Layout Designer where it will actually print on another page. Joe, yes, to answer your question, you can use the filters. I think this is what you're asking because it's a little vague, but I'm assuming that you mean can you use the same like filter idea for groups? You can. If you group them together, you could actually create a detail section and have it print out a specific way in using groups and subtotals and all those line types that are supported, you can do that. There is a default that's used automatically with groups, but you could set your own if you wanted to. Again, that gets in a little more complex. That's why I chose the heading lines today because it's a little easier to understand and a little more commonly used, but you can set it up that way. Enzo, if you want to customize the subtotal line, you'll just have to do the same thing we did with the heading line, but instead create a new detail section for your subtotal, and then make sure you filter it out of your detail section 1. So that's something that I can briefly kind of discuss. If you start adding multiple detail sections with your different heading types or your different line types, you're going to make sure that you filter it out so it doesn't duplicate. So you'll have to do like if document line items is greater or less than 256, and then choose operator and where's my hand? And if document line items is greater or less than, I think subtotals are the number 4, then it would print anything except for subtotals. So it is possible to do for subtotals as well. Denise, right now the detail section 2 is not doing anything. I have it for spacing. That's it. I could technically remove it if I wanted to, but yeah, sometimes it's used to put information like a lot of the layouts say continued on next page. So if the document gets so long, it'll automatically print on the second page. This one's not set up to do that, but it could be. So that's typically what it's there for, but in this case, it's just spacing. Mike, I kind of touched on this earlier about how I would recommend listing optional items. I would do it with heading lines. That's the easiest way that I've found, is that just create a new heading line on your document item screen and then put all your optional items underneath it. It makes it easy for the customer. It makes it easy for you as a rep or your reps. You know, if you're the sales manager, that's the easiest way I've found to do it. Denise, the detail sections are not how the items are going to show up on the document. So that's actually a good point. That's something I can mention right now, is that your detail sections are not how the items are going to print out on the document. So if you're worried about your saying, oh, it's detail section 1 means I need to put my heading lines first because I always want that to print, and then detail section 2, I want my line items to print, and then detail section 3 would have to be my subtotal because I want my subtotal to print. That's not how it works. This is just telling QuoteWerks how to print it. How it's going to show up on the document is how it's listed on your document item screen. So document items always go top down. So if you want the heading lines to show up in these specific spots, you just put them there. So if I move this heading line here, actually select it and grab it there. So if I move my heading line there, it's going to print second now. So you can see I have phase 1, phase 2. So that's all. The detail sections are just numbered, so you can kind of like keep track of them and move them around as needed, or put the right things in there, but they don't affect how the items are printed. Geneva, I don't know if we'll be adding. Geneva asked if we're going to be adding having a webinar like this with the Quote Valley layouts. I'm not sure. That's a little outside of my expertise because it is done in HTML. I have very basic knowledge of that, so I wouldn't be too helpful in that. But it is something that we may do. I'm not sure because it's a little more complicated when you're dealing with HTML rather than just our layout designer, which is fairly simple to use. David, I'm not quite sure I understand your question about how to deal with the scope of work description items. I'm not sure what you mean exactly. If you can give me a little more information, I'll circle back to that question. Jack, Jack asked basically when I pulled this contact into QuoteWerks, he said all my active quotes populated. That shows up automatically. Anytime you pull in your contact, you'll actually see any open or existing quotes on the right-hand side, or you can close that if you like. It's just the active quotes panel. You can turn that on and off right here as well on the toolbar. Scott, so Scott's asking a good question. He's asking if there's a way to add a comment line to a product or service. So basically, when you add the product or service into your quote, that comment line automatically comes with it. Yes, you can do that. It's a little complicated. Well, it's not complicated, just it's a little time-consuming. So what you would have to do is in your product database, you would actually create the comment line. So you would just create it as a product. It doesn't matter what it is, so we would call it we'll just call it new comment. Then you would put in the description of this. And then you're going to, once it's added, you're going to go to products and then required items. And required items will basically means when you pull in item A, if it has any required items like item B and C, when you select item A from the database, item A, B, and C will all be added at once. So we would do required items, and we would select add. And we'll say in our demo database, if we select this monthly monitoring service, and then we'll edit it, and we'll say add. We'll say we automatically choose new comment line. And then when you bring the new comment line, you can actually set the priorities, and you can call it a comment. So if I go to products, I'll go to show all. We choose that monthly monitoring service. Let's go and add it under optional items. You can see here it's going to add it as a comment line. So I hope that was clear. Like I said, it's not complicated. It can just be time-consuming if you're having to create these new products, but it is something that that you can do. Jay, I'm not sure. I don't frequent the forums too much, so I don't know what your question was regarding the short description field. But if you're looking for another description field for your line items, you can always use the custom memo fields. Those are the ones we use by default, and those have the same amount of description space as your description field, 32,000 characters. If you need another field, if you need more than those 3 fields, you'd probably have to use a custom field or something like that. John, there might be a couple videos on filtering. If you have questions about a specific filter, your best bet is just to contact support and say, hey, is it possible to do this, or is it possible to create this kind of filter? If it's something reasonably easy, they'll just give it to you. If it's something that they'll say, yeah, it can be done, but it's going to take a couple hours for them to do it, then it would be professional services. But as far as any videos, I believe there are a couple on the website that cover just some of the basic information in that. Julie has a good question. She said when she clicks on Deliver, it has a bunch of layouts here that she doesn't use, but she doesn't necessarily want to delete them because she may want to use them later. What you can do is if you go to where QuoteWerks is installed under Help About, and then click on your Layouts folder, you can actually create a new folder in here. Like I actually have one in here called Old Layouts that I put layouts that I don't use anymore. So you can see I have quite a few different layouts that are in there. So you can create a new folder in that Layouts folder. So a new subfolder, I guess, in that Layouts folder. And then just come back here, click F5, and it'll refresh. And then that'll remove any of those layouts that you moved in there so that you can always go get them if you need them, but you don't have to actually remove them from the system. Scott, when you're asking about entering a discount amount instead of a percentage, you mean like a negative, saying, hey, you get a $50 discount, so you get a negative, it's negative 50 off your quote. Because if you do, you can just do that as a line item. You just put in, you can add a blank line. So let me go and remove these 2 items here. So if I right-click and select Insert Blank Line, I could put in, maybe it's a rebate, so we can call it rebate item. And then I can call it, for the unit price, I would just do negative 50. And then it'll deduct $50 off my quote. Mike, when you add any detail section field in your layout designer, the description is what prints for the customer. So that's the field that I want to show up. So if we go back here and we look at our heading, you can see this is my description field. This is what I want to show up on my document. So if I left that blank, so if I remove this description field from detail section 3, then my heading lines don't print. So I need to make sure you include that description field. So anytime you want the description to show up on the document, you need to make sure you add that. And then you'll see that they print out now. Joe, yes, exactly. The bold, large description in detail section 3 is what's doing the phase 1 and phase 2 and optional items, making that bold. Because I created that filter, I'm specifically looking for those types of lines in QuoteWerks, those heading lines. Arlene, that's helpful advice. Arlene sent it over just basically a comment saying that what they've done with a lot of their layouts is if their layout moves to a second page and maybe there's only a couple items, they've actually cloned their layouts and just changed the font sizes to make them smaller and then renamed those other layouts as smaller so that they can get everything fit on one page. So that's definitely an option for you. That's something that you could do. It's actually pretty genius. Never thought about just changing the font size to get everything to fit on one page. So that's an option. Like I said, if you do want to force a page break as well, maybe you want it to be in a certain spot of the document and have it go on the page too, you can do that with the filters. There's something that you can get from support where they can actually give you the information on how you can create a page break in the Layout Designer. Sam, to update your layouts to use the, you want to use the full name and not the login name. That's just a macro that you need to change on your layout. So if you look here, let me see if I have my, I don't have my sales rep on this one, but if you click on Field and then Application, you can actually choose to use the, there's actually an ampersand sales rep. Let's go to, oh, it's actually going to be document headers because we're doing sales rep. You can use the sales rep name. You can use the sales rep full name or username. So either one, or you could just use the ampersand sales rep full name. So under your document headers macro, you can just use that one. You do need to make sure that they have their full name put into their installation under Tools, My Preferences. That's where the sales rep's contact information is set up. So just make sure they have their contact info in there, and you can use these macros for a sales rep full name. Gene, the user's manual is not a PDF. It's our online help file. You can get to it in QuoteWerks if you click on Help and then QuoteWerks Help, and that'll open it up for you. Jay, I'm not quite sure what you mean about you couldn't find the fields to create a specific name without including the full address. I'm trying to remember. I'm looking back at your previous questions. The sold to contact is going to be the full contact name, so that should be the field that you would use. Either the sold to contact or the ship to contact or the bill to contact off of the sold to ship to tab. So you just need to make sure you do have your contact in there. Karen has a good question. She's asking how you can get the logo and heading info on the second page if it goes to another page. Karen, there's actually a video on the website that will walk you through exactly how to position your logo to print on every page. So if you go to our website, it's I think it's like a 5-minute video, and it'll walk you through step by step. You can see here it actually says printing your logo on every page. So just type in logo on your videos page, and it'll walk you through actually how to do that, and you can use the same step for getting the headings on there as well. Jessica, yeah, we're actually going to send the dashboard, the opportunities dashboard will be available in the next release of QuoteWerks. I don't have an exact time frame, but I would assume it'll be before the end of the year. So I would assume sometime in December it'll be available for production. That functionality will be available. Karen, if you're getting a blank second page, that means something is running over. It's just not printing to it. You'll probably just need to kind of mess with the spacing, maybe tighten things up a little bit. The other option would be to force that page break on your document so something does actually print on the second page. Mike, the columns that appear on your documents, yes, they would be the same for every rep. So the layouts that you have are used company-wide. So you're not going to have layouts for one rep or one layouts for another rep. You could do that. You would just have to name them that. But if you have 20, 30 reps, you're going to have quite a few layouts to choose from. So typically, we recommend just using the macros to populate the sales rep's contact information. Like if we use this one here, so this one has who's prepared for contact information and even a picture that's in there. So you have that information available already for you. But the columns themselves, that's all fully customizable. I mean, if you wanted to use different columns for this information, you can do that. David, for your statement of work, you could put it into the QuoteWerks document. It might be easier to be done as an attachment. That's what we have a lot of users do, is where they attach the statement of work as like a Word document or an RTF file to the QuoteWerks quote on the Layout Designer, or I'm sorry, on the Links tab. But you could put that information in the document if you like. It's just going to space out a lot, so you kind of have to play around with how it's going to print. Again, that's why it goes back to just put in your document what you typically have on a quote or proposal. That way you know what it's going to look like as you're making changes to your layouts. Matt, to add a picture to a manually added item, all you need to do is right-click on it, and there's a little picture icon right here on this toolbar. And then this will let you select an image to add to the document. So that's all you have to do. Very simple. Now, it's not going to save it for future use. So if you do want to use this part over and over again, you just need to go and add it to your product database. But if it's just a one-off item just for this particular product or this particular quote, yeah, just highlight the item, click on the picture field, and then you can select it and add it. Cindy actually has a good question. She said, if you did remove the original QuoteWerks layouts and you want them back, how can you do that? The easiest way is you can re-download the demo of QuoteWerks. That includes the layouts. Just download it onto your desktop or something like that, and in that layouts folder, you'll have a copy of them. We also have quite a few of them on the website. So if you go to the QuoteWerks website and click on Downloads and then Download Area, and then you'll see there's a Layouts page. And if you click on that, that'll bring you to the QuoteWerks sample layouts. And all these layouts are downloadable, so you can use them. So if you see something that looks pretty close to what you're doing or what you want to do, you can use some of the steps that we did today just to make some minor adjustments and then start sending them out to your customers. So this is a good place to go if you do need additional layouts or if you don't have a copy of them. But if you want the exact ones that come with the software, just download the demo on your desktop, and you can copy them out. They're the same files, and then you can delete them if you need to. Randy, yeah, you can do a 10% discount. That's not a problem. If you wanted to discount the entire quote, what you would do is on your last line item in the document, right-click and choose Add Subtotal. And this is going to subtotal out the document, and then you can add your percent discount by right-clicking and selecting Add Percent Discount. So if we wanted to do like a 10% discount, we can do that, and then that'll show the discount amount for the customer. Karen, yes, you can do it. You could print the total on each page. In your layout, let's go to our webinar here, layout here. If you want it to show up on the bottom of each page, it just needs to be in the page footer rather than the report footer. Report footer puts it at the bottom of the document. Page footer will put it at the end of every document. So you just need to put it there instead of the report footer. It would be the page footer. Michael, we'll probably do a webinar with the word merge at some point, not anytime in the near future, though. We're pretty booked up with some of the other things we'd like to do, but that is something that is on the calendar at some point. Oh, yeah, Mike, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. Yeah, you can change the column layouts here. That's done under View, Customize Columns, and you can choose which columns show up. I mean, I think we have like 126 now that are on this field, so you can just uncheck them, and they won't show up on the document. And then you can choose which users you'd like to apply them to. So if it's just for you, you can do that. If you wanted to apply it to all users, you can do that also. Julie, to find your layouts, if you click Help, About, and then click on the System tab, and then you'll see there's an install path for where QuoteWerks is installed, and just click on that, and then you'll see a Layouts folder. That's the easiest way to get there. That's how I recommend getting there because it's just very simple to get there. So it's just Help About, and then click on the System tab, and then the Install path, and that'll bring you to the main QuoteWerks installation, and then there's a Layouts option. Oh, Karen, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you could print out a total for each phase, basically. All you would do for that is just run a subtotal. So right-click on the last line item and choose Add Subtotal, and then just total it out, and just change it from subtotal to total. That's the easiest way to do that. And I mean, you can filter it and you can do crazy things to make it look different, but that's going to be that will take a considerable amount of time. This is pretty simple to just kind of make that quick adjustment. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. So I do appreciate everyone's time today. I hope I was able to answer a lot of you guys' questions. If you do have questions on the layouts, if you get stuck, let us know. Like I said, we do offer the professional services. Support won't be able to sit down with you and go through everything like I just did today. So if you do have a question about where is this field or what does this field do, they'll help you. But if you need actual layout design help, that is a paid service just because it is it can be a really time-consuming process, and sometimes it's just faster to do it offline. But definitely let us know if you do have questions because we will certainly try to help you if we can. So thank you everyone for your time, and I hope you guys have a great day.